It's a really interesting matchup between these two teams, Chris, because they go about their business in quite different ways. I think for me, the big question is, can Arsenal and that back line, particularly without Gabriel, who's injured, handle that really fearsome front? I mean, we're saying front three here, but I mean, you could say front five for PSG when they're playing really well. Can they keep these players out?
Well, I think that's the job on. They did it in the league phase of the Champions League. They won 2-0 at home and 2-0 comfortably as well. And I think I'm done underestimating this Arsenal defense. They're incredibly good in these big games. They're not going to be blown away. I would be shocked if we saw what we've seen in the previous rounds against Liverpool and against Aston Villa, where they were just able to dominate the game over the course of the two legs and look like the superior team all the time. I think Arsenal are too good in rest defense. They're too good in terms of pressing forward and making life uncomfortable on their opposition. We saw them do it to Real Madrid. We've seen them do that the entire way through this Champions League. So for me, this defense is absolutely top drawer. And you see the shots against per game, shots on target against per game, the clean sheets they've kept. They're just brilliant defensively. So I think this PSG team obviously is sensational. Dembélé has been on a brilliant run of form since the turn of the year. Kvaratskhelia has added a lot into the attack since joining in January from Napoli. And Desiree Doué is as good as it gets from an attacking point of view in Europe. But I still think that Arsenal could do a job, and at the very least keep this close. I think PSG are the better team, but I think Arsenal have every chance of going the distance with this side.
Isn't just defensively for Arsenal, they have plenty of attacking prowess of their own, none more so than Bukayo Saka. I think a few eyebrows were raised when he started that game of the weekend against Ipswich. I thought, a lot of people were suggesting maybe he just come off the bench, get a bit of a run out, and then he can focus really on the Champions League game. But that being said, there is a case to be made that he is probably the best English player currently plying his trade in world football at the moment.
I mean, maybe Harry Kane is the other one who scores lots of goals, but I think Saka is probably a better all-around player. I think you could absolutely make that argument right now. In terms of totality over time, in terms of ceiling, Jude Bellingham, I think, has had a bit of a down year for Real Madrid. He obviously is the one that gets talked about. Honestly, the biggest competition might be his teammate, Declan Rice, in terms of performing best week in, week out. Declan Rice might be the only player, and obviously Saka coming back from an injury. But I thought he was actually really good in that game against Ipswich. In some ways, that game wasn't really played above training session intensity for Arsenal. That was a fairly straightforward game. So I think in some ways, it's good that he's building up his minutes. You hope that Arteta doesn't run him into the ground as he has in previous times for Arsenal. But I think that Saka is absolutely delivering a great level right now. He's returned from injury very well, and he does what he always does, which is make defenses uncomfortable, particularly the left side of that defense. Nuno Mendes, who loves to get forward, loves to play in midfield. That's a different job on when Saka is opposite you as opposed to some of the players that PSG have faced recently. So for me, I think Saka is a wonderful addition into this team at exactly the right time.
An intriguing battle on the touchline as well between Mikel Arteta and Luis Enrique. Let's start by focusing on Arteta. How much do you think his star has risen this season, particularly given that he's had to deal with this? So many injuries to key players. You mentioned Saka there, but he wasn't the only one. Some key injuries all across the pitch as well. It's not just in one particular position. He's had to adapt in defence, midfield and attack throughout the season. How much of a better manager is he after this season than he has been previously?
Well, I wonder how we would have answered this question before the quarterfinal of the Champions League. I think so much of what he did is based off the two legs against Real Madrid, where at home you take care of business to such an extent. And yes, these have been the extenuating circumstances for Arsenal the entire season. We've known that this is the thing that, if anything is going to slow them down, it is the injuries. It's not having a striker that you can count upon to score 20 to 25 goals. But realistically, we've talked about this Arsenal season largely as a disappointment, particularly in the Premier League. The distance that they have between themselves and Liverpool, the fact that they didn't take advantage of Manchester City falling off in the manner in which they have, a lot of that falls on Arteta. So I think in some ways there are bits of this season where he has maybe not shown his best, but I think there definitely are bits, and obviously in the Champions League. And I think if there is a discussion about how much he has improved as a manager, it is about how much they've improved defensively with him in charge, because they are a much better defensive team and a defensive setup with him as manager than maybe would have been, particularly when he took over, and obviously over time that's built up. So I think he's definitely improved in some areas, but I think in the overall, the take has been that this hasn't been his best work. I think a lot of that will depend on how much further they go here in the Champions League.
Luis Enrique has done a lot of things for this PSG team, but one of the key things he's focused on, particularly from a French football perspective, is imbue some of these young French stars with the belief that they can do it at the highest level. The likes of Doué, we talked about him earlier, Barcola, Zaire Emery's playing a starting role, Mbaye as well, who's had some good appearances, obviously much less. He's only played 12 games, but he scored 3 goals and 4 assists as well for them. And you have to think that Luis Enrique is not just having an impact on this team and PSG, he's also having an impact on French football as a whole, because these are the guys who are going to be the core for the French national side going into the World Cup over here next summer, and then obviously into the future as well.
I think in the overall, what Paris Saint-Germain want to be is that standard bearer for French football. They want to be the club now, I think after they went through that era of going for the superstars and Neymar and Messi and Mbappe and brand building. Now that they're kind of a serious football club, they've decided that they want to buy young and French and develop and nurture the next generation of stars. And so that puts them right at the center of the French football conversation, which already is, for me, the country in the world that develops players at a rate that's better than any other right now. They're better than the Brazilians, they're better than the Argentinians, they're better than the English, in my judgment, in terms of developing footballers. France right now. So that puts Luis Enrique right in the middle of that conversation. I think the style that he imbues them with and the audacity and the pressing and the intensity, I think is a great carryover for the French national team. Obviously, they will be looking for a manager after the World Cup in 2026. So I think this idea, I mean, maybe it could be Enrique, but it could be somebody else that has this idea of playing in the way in which that he is playing with this team. But let's be very clear, this is not an easy job that he took on. It was not an easy decision that the club took on to let Kylian Mbappe go and instead be better with the collective than with the individual, but it has absolutely come off. And now they go into this semifinal, as I said earlier, as favorites against Arsenal, and they're developing something that's much bigger, I think, than what they were doing before, which was sign the nearest star and try and get him to win the Champions League for you individually, as opposed to build a genuine collective and idea that runs right the way through the team.
Should be an absolutely cracking game. Don't forget you can watch both of those first legs live across our network next week. Barcelona versus Inter Milan is the other game on Wednesday. Chris, you're going to be calling that one. So hard to pick a winner in that one as well. CBS and Paramount Plus with all the action from 2 p.m. Eastern on both.